back to the landing page. Okay. Welcome everyone to Crypto Politics. We are here. We're here talking about crypto politics here with Cityroots DAO, and we've got Matthew Diemer and Greg Tanaka. Apology for the delay here, guys, but we're going to go ahead and kick it off. Yeah, Greg, would you mind doing a quick intro for everybody to let them know who you are? Oh, Greg, we can't hear you. If you want to double check your audio.
Hey, can you guys hear me now?
There we go. Perfect.
Okay, great. So, hi everyone. My name is Greg Tanaka. I'm currently on the Palo Alto City Council here in California, and I'm running for U.S. Congress, Congressional District 16, which basically is from Pacifica down to Half Moon Bay. Includes the cities of Los Gatos all the way up to Redwood City here in Silicon Valley. And I run a DeFi protocol on Avalanche called Mosaic Finance, so mosaic.finance. And I really believe that we need to have better crypto legislation. And so that's one of the main reasons why I'm running. So I'm super excited about this conversation. Thank you, Joseph, for making this happen.
Yeah, we're extremely glad that you're here. Matthew, would you care to give an intro?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. And how you doing, everyone? My name is Matthew Diemer, and I'm running for U.S. Congress in Ohio's 7th District. My platform includes restoring our supply chain, manufacturing, putting trade schools back in high schools, and unifying the country. Bitcoin and this industry is part of my platform of manufacturing, innovation, small businesses. I think there's a lot of value to be added to the nation, to Ohio 7th, and I'm excited to talk to everybody all about it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for that, both of you. So, yeah, we are here. We're gonna just do a really quick introduction of each panelist. Just ask them, what their personal involvement is with crypto, blockchain, NFTs. And then really dive into what they believe their most important legislative political issue pertaining to crypto, blockchain, NFTs is here in the USA. And then we'll dive into some guided questions around education, environmental impact, taxes, regulations, and kind of that area or those areas there. And then we'll do some AMA questions, and then we'll dive into how can we support you as you guys are looking to support us, right? So, which we very much appreciate. So, let's start over here again with Greg here. So, Greg, again, what is your what is your personal involvement? Again, just go ahead and elaborate. Take a little bit more time into what you're doing in crypto.
Sure, of course. I started with crypto a long time ago. I started with Bitcoin way back when they had a Bitcoin faucet. You guys may not remember that, but they used to give free Bitcoin. It's kind of shocking, but this was like 10 plus years ago. So kind of dabbled in it as a hobbyist. And then really got into it when the DeFi summer started. So if you look at the percentage that the financial industry takes of the gross domestic product of the United States, it's about 10 to 20%. And what are they essentially doing? Wall Street is essentially just moving numbers on a spreadsheet back and forth. And if you look at the potential of crypto, especially DeFi, is to make that way more efficient. So rather than Wall Street getting so much of the value that's being created by others, the people that create the value get to keep more of it. So I'm a huge fan of crypto. I think crypto is the future. I kind of feel that crypto is kind of at a 1995 moment in terms of where we're at. I think there's so much potential. But the really unfortunate thing is that a lot of the legislators in Congress today are totally out of touch with what's going on. A lot of the current legislators in Congress think that crypto is some sort of nefarious libertarian tax cheat scheme or Silk Road, drug dealing type thing, but it's the furthest from the truth. What crypto really is the potential to make the financial system way more efficient. And so that's one of the big reasons why I'm running. The current representative in my area, she's 80 years old, voted for the anti-crypto provisions, and I think that's just dead wrong. This is Silicon Valley. We should be on the edge of technology, not pushing against technology. So that's one of my big motivators for running. I really think that a lot of the anti-crypto provisions that were in the infrastructure bill need to be rolled back, and in fact, if anything, we should make it easier to do crypto, not harder. So I think we need to encourage this industry. I think we should have a capital gains tax holiday, very much what happened with the internet back in the early 90s, when there was no sales tax for the first, I think, decade and a half or so. It allowed the e-commerce industry to flourish, and I think we should do the same with crypto. So I could go in a lot more depth, but I want to give Matthew a chance to also speak. So thank you so much, Joseph.
Excellent, excellent. All right, and yeah, Matthew, same question, right? So, what's your personal involvement, and yeah, go from there.
Excellent. All right. So I'm actually down in Miami, Florida right now for Bitcoin BTC 2022, and what a hell of a time! Great 3 days, 4 days of meeting people, great conference, great speakers, and really good entertainment. So if anybody is thinking about coming to Miami in 2023, you're gonna have a good time. And so I'm just in super conference and chill mode. So apologize for me being so relaxed right now. But my involvement with crypto for the past, 6 years or so, maybe it's been more already. I got into Bitcoin in 2016, and then I started a small media company called Crypto 101. And it was a place to educate people. When I got into crypto in 2016, there was really no onboarding when it comes to the crypto space. You'd go on to Reddit and they'll, everybody would say DYOR, but where's the research? Where can you do your own research? And so Crypto 101 was born to get people and onboard people into crypto, into Bitcoin. And so we did that. We had 2 podcasts. We wrote a book. We had a blog service, and that was my first, getting into making sure that we were supporting industry, we're supporting the growth here. Moving fast forward, I am now the host of the Decrypt Daily, which is a daily news show. I curate the news from Decrypt Media, and I'm running for Congress in Ohio, like I said. And so the way that I look at Bitcoin and this innovation and this the ecosystem. I'm just gonna talk a little bit about the conference. You walk around the conference, you see people that are building, entrepreneuring. You see all these different aspects of Bitcoin out here, building and thriving. And so this is called innovation. This is called small business. This is called honestly free market. This is called America. And I really just loved what I saw here and all of the growth that we're seeing through this innovation. And so I want to make sure that we are going to Washington to promote, to support, and to encourage this innovation that we're seeing here. Because what we're doing is we're encouraging growth in business and the small business owners and this whole new industry and ecosystem that is flourishing. And so it would be a real shame if myopic either legislation or fear of new things, stifled it. Because what we're seeing is we are seeing a very powerful push for, people to really thrive here. And so that's one goal that I have here, and that's how I've been working in the space.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm glad that both of you are here, not only in this conversation, but in the space in general. I think you both bring immense experience, and I'd be proud to let you or to get my vote if I was in either of your states. So, yeah. So let's see. Let's just dive right into to some of these next questions. So let's start with education. And again, either one of you can take this and just run with it. But how can we encourage trusted education with respect to crypto? And this kind of hits 3 different pieces. We got to hit obviously congressmen and women. We've got to hit the average individual, and then we've got to hit the entrepreneurs, right? So those 3 layers. Let's just pick one and start with it.
Can you define that first question? You said congressmen and women. Define that.
Congress people, sorry, just in general.
Congress people.
Sorry,
general. And women. Okay, I was like, that's really interesting. All right. I would say that how do we approach education? I think that going to educating on Bitcoin is a deep dive, and it's a huge, just like anything. Once you start learning a little bit, you start just going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, and then different things open. Like a lot of just me learning about the financial structures, how banking works, and so on and so forth. This started with just getting into Bitcoin, learning about Bitcoin, and then deep diving into banking and regulations, and understanding what the SEC is, how they work, what do they do, the CFTC, FinCEN, so on and so forth. And so I don't think that having a really, trying to get it all in at once when it comes to education is going to be really beneficial. But I think it's just, one, as us as being in the space, is being open-minded. That's the first thing. Understanding that there is going to be skepticism. Understanding that there's going to be pushback, because there was for the internet. There was for everything. There's even social media and all these other things, even though they grew really big. There's always been pushback in technology. So we have to understand pushback is inevitable. And so be open-minded as creators, as builders, as supporters. When it comes to education as well, from their side, hopefully we can tell them just to be open-minded and understand that things are going to develop and we're going to progress. And so that's an open-mindedness. And I think that the best education is just to show that that this technology either can disappear or work in certain ways, and allow them to go through the slippery slope themselves. If they have specific questions, if people have specific questions, then answer those specific questions. But I don't know how to write HTML code. I don't, and I don't care. But I know that different things that I use work absolutely properly. So let's support the system of building. Let's support the system of implementing. Let's support the system of using, and let's support the people of adoption. Because at the end of the day, what Bitcoin is going to give us is going to be a more inclusive financial system, a way to do support Web3, a way to grow a more fair, like I said, financial system, and more sound money. And so, and obviously security when it comes to wealth in the store of value. So I think that it's about coming from a place of understanding, coming from a place of making sure that we are supporting the industry so that the builders can build, the entrepreneurs can entrepreneur, and they have and people have products that are easily accessible and usable. And then going from there and just allowing them and helping them guide down to this slippery slope path of obviously going down the rabbit hole and learning all you can about the different facets of these different industries or regulations or branches of government that Bitcoin touches.
Greg, anything to add on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think Matthew covered a lot of the points. I actually think that entrepreneurs, I think that's the probably easiest group to educate. I think they're early, pretty much cutting edge. And I'm an entrepreneur myself. As I mentioned earlier, I run a DeFi protocol called Mosaic Finance on Avalanche. And so I think entrepreneurs, that's probably the least of the worries, right? I think they're pretty much cutting edge, and they're able to understand the technology trends and the promise of new technology. So I think that's not too hard in terms of entrepreneurs. I think what makes it hard for entrepreneurs though is regulation uncertainty, and that's a big deal, right? And that's one of the big reasons why I'm running for Congress is when you have this uncertainty, it's really hard to build a business. It's really hard to know what's going to happen. So I think this regulatory certainty is critical. I think we need to have right now, if you look at the crypto regulation, it's spread among many different parts of the government, right? Some of it is in Treasury, some of it is in SEC, some of it's in 7 or 8 different organizations in the federal government, and it makes it super hard. But I guess not just federal, state, local government, and it makes it super hard to do business, right? To actually harness the promise of crypto. So on an entrepreneur level, I don't think it's as much of an education issue as it is just the fragmentation of the regulations, the difficulty, the opaqueness of all of it that makes it hard to operate. So I think that's on the entrepreneur level. On the public level, the general public level, I think um, um, I think in general, entrepreneurs and companies have done a pretty good job in kind of simplifying things, trying to make things easier to be accessible. But still, if you look at some of the DeFi protocols, right? Like one of my favorite DeFi protocols out there is Platypus, right? And if you look at some of these DeFi protocols, they could be really complicated, right? You have to go through 6 or 7 different steps to do things. And so I think there's room for improvement. I think I've seen some other protocols that are trying to simplify some of this, but I think there's a way to go. I think it's still very much a crypto insider type of thing. And I think we have to go from kind of a crypto insider type of thing to more the general public type of thing. And I mean, I look at my Schwab account. So I have a Schwab account. They give me like 0.5% interest rate on my savings, yet they charge me 25% interest rates on my credit card. It's just atrocious, right? And this is what I'm talking about, the load that the financial industry has on the gross domestic product of the United States. So I think that from the general public point of view, there's a lot of need for them to go to crypto and DeFi, but there's still a lot of complexity for the average person. So I think a lot of education needs to be there in place. I think the good news is that these days, just about anything you want to learn is on YouTube, right? So when I need to learn how to do something, I jump on YouTube and I see how it's done. But I think we definitely need to make this more accessible because I think crypto represents financial freedom, right? It represents, as Matthew said earlier, it represents the separation of money and savings. It represents sound money. It's a way to allow people to the general public to truly have wealth, right? Because when the wealth can be seized by the government, when the wealth can be inflated away, like it's happening now, I think the inflation rate is supposed to be like 8-9%, but if you look at the real inflation rate compared to what it was historically, using the same kind of CPI measures, it's a lot higher. The average American family has lost thousands of dollars because of inflation. And so I think there's definitely a need for crypto and DeFi, and there needs to be some sort of education, easy education for people to be able to realize it. Now, I think the hardest group that you mentioned, Joseph, is unfortunately our politicians. And um, so I think entrepreneurs is super easy in terms of education. I think general public a little bit harder, but not impossible. But when you look at our politicians, oh my God. So I've spent an immense amount of time talking to our elected leaders, and running for Congress wasn't my first choice, right? I'm running a DeFi protocol. I'm do startups. Although I do serve on the policy council, I kind of serve myself an entrepreneur first. And when I try to talk to our politicians about crypto and DeFi and the potential, it is scary. It is scary bad. I'm not sure if you guys have ever watched our Congress people on C-SPAN or TV, but it is cringy. The lack of knowledge of our folks in Congress compared to even just the average American is pretty um, pretty depressing, right? I think part of the reason why is we suffer from a huge gerontocracy, especially here in California. So the current representative in my area, she's 80 years old. She's one of the oldest members of Congress. She's actually older than Biden. And talking to her about crypto is like talking to the wall. I mean, I kid you not. Unfortunately, a lot of Congress members is like that, and so I'm pleased to see someone like Matt running as well. It's because we need we need younger, fresh ideas, people who understand what's going on. We need people who actually use a smartphone. I hear some members of Congress don't even use a smartphone, which is just ridiculous in this day and age.
Wow.
And yet they're supposed to regulate technology. How do you regulate technology when you don't know, like you don't even use it, right? You hear ridiculous questions like, I heard one congressperson ask Mark Zuckerberg, how does Facebook make money? I mean, I bet you all the listeners on this podcast know how Facebook makes money, right? But the level of knowledge in Congress is at an abysmal level, and unfortunately, a lot of them are very, very, very coin operated, right? They're not there to learn, there to really understand the problems and the potential of a new industry. I've talked to some Congress members, and they think that this is a libertarian tax cheat scheme. They think it's a Ponzi scheme. They think it's you know, a way for people to buy drugs or illegal weapons or stuff like that. And there's part of that too. Like I don't want to say that there's nothing like that happening, but if you look at what's happening with the U.S. dollar, right? I mean, how much drugs are used, by the drug cartels, right? How much is used in prostitution? How much is used in all these other kind of crimes? I'll say there's quite a bit. But the difference with crypto versus, let's say, paper currency or the fiat system is that you can actually trace it. We've had some humongous thefts, and they've been able to trace and recover a lot of the money. So, unfortunately, I think a lot of the members of Congress either choose not or maybe are just too old to learn about some of the new technologies. So I think we need fresh ideas, we need fresh perspectives, we need new blood in Congress to kind of reinvigorate it. We have some of the oldest members, oldest politicians out of any country in the world. It's ridiculous. And California is the worst. Actually, California, we have some of the oldest. Not to say that old is bad, but we need people who are willing to learn new ideas because crypto represents a huge idea. It's maybe one of the greatest inventions of man. Because if you think about what is the function of money, the function of money is to orchestrate economic activity. And if you look at any of these centralized control economies like communist China or USSR, right? China was in the 80s, they were broke, right? There were people starving, a billion people starving. And then when they moved to a capitalistic economy, so much wealth has been created, right? You had a billion people that got lifted out of poverty. And that's what a market economy allows you to do. And that's the operating system. Money is the operating system of this economy. So you need sound money, as Matthew said, right? We need sound money. We need a way that people could trust the system, and by doing that, we can increase the productivity of the country. Without that, just by printing money, by doing a bunch of quantitative easing, by ballooning the balance sheet to to record levels, that's not increasing the wealth of the country. That's just redistribution. What we have to do is increase the productivity of the country, and we increase the productivity of the country by having sound money, right? By having a vibrant economy, by having entrepreneurs creating novel new financial instruments to make things much more efficient. That's what we need to do. But it's a great question, Joseph. I really appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for the response. So what I want to do really quick is bring it back, and let's keep this answer less than let's go for like a 30-second, maybe 40-second answer for each of you. What specifically do you think we could do, and in conjunction with you both, to help teach our existing politicians and educate them on blockchain? What can we get behind? Do you know of any programs? Like what can we do? I don't know who wants to
All
take
right,
that first.
I'll take that. Don't.
Okay.
Just don't vote for new people. Look, the world's moving. It's moving forward. I'm going to be an old man someday. You're going to be an old man someday. And sometimes we just got to go back and sip lemonade or do something else. I think that to try to teach all the different things that are coming out is going to be impossible. And so just vote for people that are just demonstrating that they get it. Look, Gary Vee, I think, has one of the best quotes that I've said or I've heard in a while. It's like he said, if you don't think that this Web3 technology is going to move forward, that you're not paying attention. When I was a kid, he said that I traded baseball cards. My parents were like, "Oh, this aren't going to be worth anything. They're worth something." Then I got older and I started buying sneakers, and they said that's not going to be worth anything. That's stupid, because it's stupid to old people or older people. Sorry, but it was worth something. And he said, if your kids are spending all day in the digital, on social media, on TikToks, on playing, Minecraft, Fortnite, or whatever, and you don't think that the digital is not going to be more and more be part of everyday life, then you're not paying attention. So let's not educate. Let's just vote people in that get it and can move this forward.
I love that response, Greg.
I think Matthew hit the nail on the head. So our politicians only respond to one thing, right? And that is not getting in office. So I spent so much time. As I said, my first choice wasn't to run for office, run for Congress. My first choice was to get them to change the laws to make them reasonable, right? Like the infrastructure bill is totally unreasonable. It makes basically everyone a criminal because you cannot comply with it. You cannot report the counterparty of your transaction. You don't know the name, the social security number, the address. You just don't. And I spent so much time trying to educate our current elected leaders. Unfortunately, the only thing they respond to, as I said, they're very much coin operated. The only thing they respond to is losing. So what has to happen is enough anti-crypto people need to be voted out of office. Then the rest of them will be very open to learning. I think the main reason why the current politicians, current legislators don't respond to this is because, they think crypto has no voice. They don't see their colleagues getting voted out of office because of crypto, right? So I think Matthew is right. If the public stands up and actually starts voting the anti-crypto people out of office, suddenly they will be willing to learn. They'll wake up and they go, oh, well, maybe this thing isn't a Ponzi scheme. Maybe there's something real here. But really, that's what it takes, because I've tried the traditional route, right? I tried, giving them education from the ground up, it is hard, right? There's not a willing, there's no motivation because these guys are so coin operated right now. And worse, you have the traditional finance industry coming in as well, and they want to preserve their big fat margin, right? They want to keep the 10 to 20% of the U.S. economy. So, yeah, I mean, the best way to educate our elected leaders is to vote out the anti-crypto people. That is the
Yep.
best way.
And I just want to just
Yeah.
go and say one more thing about this really
Go for
quick.
it.
Is I don't want to say that this is a bad thing because I don't want to hate on older politicians or people who've served our country and that got voted in and are working in politics. Look, thank you for doing this. Thank you for your service. Thank you for working in this very hard job as a public servant. I respect the hell out of it and I appreciate it. But inevitably, we're going to have to move forward, and this is, I think, the best way. So I just don't want to make this negative.
Yeah.
But there are things
Well,
that
that's the model.
there are things that exactly. So I just want to make that very clear. Thank you for your service, but let's move the country forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm with
that's the
Matthew on
model.
that 100%.
Excellent. All right, so let's go. Let's jump on. This one's kind of fun. There's a lot of. It's kind of actually in the same premise of education, right? When we talk about environmental impact, specifically from blockchain and crypto, and how it mass adoption brings fear in the current political atmosphere. You guys got any thoughts on that?
Go ahead, Greg. You take this one first.
Sure. Yeah. So, there's folks out there who say, oh, Bitcoin uses more energy than some small country, right? And they say this is why it's evil and this is why we should block it. And I mean, same could be said about drying your clothes in the laundry, right? Like, how much energy is used to, blow dry your hair? How much energy is used to dry your laundry, right? And if you think about what is crypto doing, right? It's securing the money supply. So what energy is taken to secure the money supply? You have armored trucks driving around. You have big bank vaults being produced in the steel you use to create that bank vault. You have judges. You have police with guns, right? If you look at the amount of energy and work that's required to secure the money supply, right? To have a secret service, right? To make sure there's no counterfeiting, right? It is immense. It is the amount of energy being used to secure the U.S. dollar is immense. You have a warship, right? Going around in the Pacific, right? So the amount of energy being spent on Bitcoin is trivial, is a fraction of a percent compared to what it takes to secure the traditional money supply. And so I think it's a bit of a fallacy versus like you look at how much energy is being used to secure Bitcoin. It's a relative amount, and then you also need to compare it against things that are probably more optional. So like for instance, drying your clothes, right? You could hang your clothes up and let it line dry. It's in fact it's cheaper, right? You don't have to pay for energy, and it's better for the environment. So and that you have a choice, right? But securing the money supplies, you have to secure the money supply, otherwise it's counterfeiting. So there's no choice. Either you could have a bunch of people with guns, trying to force it, or you could use it. You could do it in software, right? And software would do it much more efficiently, much more ecologically friendly. So that's the one thing, because I think there's this fallacy about a false fallacy about how much energy crypto takes. Now, not to say we shouldn't go to proof of stake, right? I'm not saying that, but I just think that there's a fallacy about how much energy or the waste of energy that Bitcoin or crypto in general is taking. So that's the first thing I want to get out of the way.
I'll give you like one more minute.
The second, okay, I'll be brief. I don't want to filibuster here. I think the second thing is the digitalization of energy. So if you look at what's happening now, a lot of the spare flare gas coming off of these oil wells, the natural gas, before it wasn't economical to do anything with it, to generate power with it, because you couldn't have the transmission lines coming back. And now you're seeing all these energy companies who are basically using this kind of flare energy and mining Bitcoin. So what's happening actually is what I call the digitization of energy. You're using all this spare energy capacity to mine Bitcoin. You see this in El Salvador, right, with them using the energy of a volcano. So I think there's And this is going to create a lot more efficiency in the energy market. And it's also going to soak up energy that would have been just used to heat up the, the environment. So I think a lot of this a lot of the ecological concerns are a bit of a false fallacy right now.
Matt?
I think somebody in the chat called me the Moroccan Obama, and I think that's hilarious. Unless they're talking about Greg. So I appreciate the Obama Moroccan version. For me, this is a freedom of speech conversation. And how am I going to get from climate and energy to freedom of speech? Let me put that to you. We need more speech than less speech. I think that these conversations are important to talk about energy consumption, and we should be talking about energy consumption about, like Greg said, your dryers and your hair dryers, or anything. And the more people that are talking, the more people are concerned, the more people or correlations that are made, the more people that are out there saying that we want a certain product, and speech is coming back. That is going to give signals to entrepreneurs. That's going to give signals to entrepreneurs and builders and people who are building businesses to create products that are going to address those needs. And then the free market is going to come in and see how all that plays out. And we're already seeing that with Bitcoin and proof of work mining. And so people are saying climate change and the amount of energy that Bitcoin proof of work mining uses. And so you see Intel trying to innovate and develop new ASICs that are more energy efficient, that are going to be actually cheaper for people to buy. And that is going to be part of the solution. I was just at the conference. You have a lot of people over here talking about solar and wind and creating whole businesses around trying to find carbon neutral solutions or energy sources for Bitcoin mining. And the only reason why they thought of this is because of speech, because of the conversations we're having. So this goes back to freedom of speech, in my opinion. More speech, voice your opinions. Make sure you have your opinion down and loud. People are going to push back on you. But what's going to happen is somebody that's an entrepreneur is going to see it and hear it and say, is this a market that I can get into? And if it actually works and it's actually effective, people are going to come in, make good products, and then we're going to see the market take over. And I think that's what we're seeing with where we're going to go to either very clean or sustainable zero carbon energy very quickly because of the innovation that's coming out.
That's excellent. Thank you both. So the next thing that I want to jump into here is going to be this one's fun, especially as we're just exiting tax season. What would you? I know you kind of briefly hit on it earlier, Matthew, but what kind of regulations would you like to see in the tax side, specific to crypto or NFTs?
Me. I think that we have to step back a little bit. I mean, we're always talking about what regulations we want, but I don't think we actually have the definitions we need. I was talking to Brett Harrison of the president of FTX.us the other day, and he has all kinds of questions as the president of one of the major exchanges in the United States and the third largest exchange by volume in the world, FTX Global itself. And they're like, what is a security when it comes to a crypto or a token? What can we list? What can we not list? Are they going to deem this security later or not? How does a security operate, or if it's in multi things, like, is it a gas fee? Is it on the like for example, Bitcoin, is it transaction fees? Is that the transaction fee a security? Is Bitcoin a security? They are deemed a commodity. I'm just using this as an example. If we have like Lightning Network and micropayments, how is that regulated? And then you have these other companies coming out making these different facilities for Web3s and putting them on exchanges as well, where you can buy and facilitate Web3 commerce. And so it is about understanding the industry, and as regulators, I think getting in a room Greg, myself, other people in the space that support or understand the industry, and people from the industry, the stakeholders. Get them in a room and actually start really understanding these definitions. And I think the legislators should come out with a big definition manual and give it to the FCC, give it to the CFTC, give it to these different regulators, and say, this is how we, the people who understand, the legislators, the stakeholders, understand the industry. Let's work off of this. And now let's look at what regulation looks like in an environment that still allow the innovation to grow, that we foster it, entrepreneur and builders can build, and spring from there. But like I said, I just want to bring it back full circle. We have to start with definitions, and those are still very opaque.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Greg. What you thinking?
Yeah, good question. So I don't disagree with Matthew in terms of definitions, but I think, I think back to the internet in 1995. In 1995, if you sold something on the web, there was no sales tax. And the reason why, it wasn't because they didn't want to collect tax. No, they very much wanted to collect tax. But the issue was they didn't have a way of doing it, right? It was still kind of murky. It was really difficult. The technology wasn't there. Like as Matthew said, the definitions weren't there. And so what happened was basically there was no sales tax on e-commerce for a decade and a half. And I think that was a good thing, right? I mean, what's happening right now is they're trying to force taxation of crypto right now. Like for instance, when you go from ETH to AVAX to BTC to your favorite token, you're supposed to be paying capital gains tax all the way. How the heck are you going to do that, right? Like what is your cost basis, right? I mean, it's like an impossible task. I've been doing like part of you guys. I've been doing my taxes, for our April 15th filing, and I use like 9 different tax programs, right? There's these programs out there. You put your wallet address in, and they tell you how much taxes you owe,
Yeah.
and I get 9 different answers. I mean, they're not just off by a little bit. They're off by like 2, 3, 4x. Right? It's like crazy.
Yeah.
And so it's an impossible situation right now. Like there's so many different conflicting regulations. There's so many mud right now. What we really should do is what I've been saying is the simple thing is we just go on a total capital gains holiday on crypto. There should be no tax on crypto. And crypto is still a very small part of the U.S. economy. I think we should not tax it until we actually have the tools and frameworks in place. It also gives a chance for the industry to grow and flourish. It's a chance for the United States to become the #1 player in this market. By China banning Bitcoin and forcing all the miners to leave, it has given us a chance to become #1 in this area. And I think there's so much potential. And crypto is so aligned with our democracy. We absolutely should be helping to promote it. And one way you could help promote it is by having this capital gains holiday. I've been talking to a lot of folks in the crypto space, and as some of these folks see this, onerous regulations coming down, that's going to make it tough to operate in the crypto space. A lot of people are saying, hey, I'm going to move to Dubai. I'm going to move to the Cayman Islands. I'm going to move to Puerto Rico, right? But why do we want all these talented people to leave the country? We should be doing just the opposite. We should be attracting talent to this country, right? By attracting talented entrepreneurs to this country, this is how we build wealth. This is how we increase the productivity of this country, not by driving people away, not by having these conflicting rules, not by taxing the heck out of stuff when there's no good way of actually tracking it. It's not that we don't want to pay our taxes. I think we do, but it should be fair. It should be clear. There shouldn't be 9 different answers for the same thing. And also, I think we should give this industry a chance to flourish. And so, after a few decades, they started taxing e-commerce, and I'm saying that was the right thing to do, right? But they had the tools in place to do it then, right? It was really clear, like as Matthew said, the definitions were in place. But right now, it is very murky, right? We're in like murky mud right now. And why the heck do we want to kill this industry? Why the heck do we want to drive it underground? Why the heck do we want to drive all these amazing entrepreneurs to other countries? It doesn't make sense. We should be keeping these people here, where we want our country should be the land of innovation, right? So that's what I think.
I want to agree. I want to agree with Greg to an extent, and say that they are this and not this or. Definitions need to come before regulations, and you know what? I think that a lot of the taxation has come before the definitions, and so I think that was irresponsible to innovation. And And I think the other thing about the deep dive when it comes to stakeholders and people that understand the industry is so that we don't have an early, I guess, regulatory framework that doesn't evolve with the industry. And what do I mean by that is that we saw it with Cambridge Analytica and Facebook and your data. And so we didn't know, we kind of understood, like, we know what social media was until we understood what they were doing with our data. They were mining our data and how it was being used, and companies and the businesses that formed around that data to exploit that data for nefarious purposes. And we would have not, and we didn't know that because it was almost like a one and done. This is it, and nobody would kept on deep diving into the industry and defining what these companies did, the innovation that was happening, and it was innovation. It's just it was innovation for certain purposes, and so I'm going to say that it's a this and a right point, and I think that definitions come being committed to focusing on the business, not stifle innovation, not come out with rules beforehand that it doesn't make sense to a lot of people, which some of these tax rules do not make sense, but also keep focusing so we don't have a runaway situation when it comes to Facebook and social media data.
Yeah. Privacy is obviously quite a bit of a concern around here too. Okay, so I know we kind of started a little bit late here today, so but I do want to make sure that we end on time. So I'm going to just jump into the last section here and just start with, how can we best support you? We're going to limit it to like 2 minutes each here so that we can again end on time. This definitely we can do this again. It looks like Matthew is fading into the darkness here anyway. So let's start with Matthew, just in case we lose his light entirely. So how can we best support your platform and you as you're running?
Money. Money. You can go to diemerforcongress.com. That's DIEMER for Congress.com. Here's the thing. We just won the endorsement of the Ohio's largest newspaper. I'm running for Congress in Ohio. And so that's a big thing. Two of the other primary candidates suspended their campaigns. So that means I'm the only person running right now to win the primary and to go into the general. So that means we need to gear up for the general. If you want a pro innovation, pro jobs, pro American companies advocate in Washington, you need to give to the campaign. You need to support so we can build an army, an arsenal to fight in the general. That's the best way to support. And tell all your friends about it.
Excellent. And then we will make sure that we post that on our Twitter, guys, and in Discord as well, so that you guys have the links on how to support. Greg?
Yeah, similar answer. Definitely money is huge here. The incumbents have so much of an advantage because they have the taxpayer dollars. They could send mails out to people. And so as a challenger, you are significantly disadvantaged. So money is a big deal. District is about 1 million people. And to only real way to reach everyone is actually through money. Although I canvass like heck, but still money is such an important aspect of it. So you could go to greattanaka.org and contribute there. We accept your favorite token, and as well as, of course, US dollar. And what we're doing actually is we're forming a DAO called Tanaka DAO, or more, that's kind of like how we call it internally. It's called the Crypto Congress Takeover, where if you donate, we're going to be issuing NFTs to people. It's going to give access to a DAO. We actually have transparency and control over what's happening. And the hope is if we actually win, maybe the NFT will be worth something as well. So definitely living what we preach here in terms of harnessing the crypto ecosystem, and we're looking for people to also volunteer on the campaign. So if those folks who are interested in getting involved, whether it's on the Tanaka DAO or the campaign, we could definitely use help. So I think the most important thing is get involved, because so long the crypto industry has kind of been its own little bubble, right? We kind of ignored the politics. I know I ignored the politics. But it's really bad news right now. There's a lot of anti-crypto provisions coming down the pike, and so we need more pro-crypto candidates to win. Because otherwise, if not enough of us win, what's going to happen is there's going to be more dire anti-crypto provisions coming down the pike. So we need to stop. We need to stem the the damage that's been being done right now and reverse it. So no, definitely get involved. It's critically important right now.
Excellent. Thank you so much, both of you. I appreciate your time. This kind of podcast, we're definitely going to continue these as we find more candidates that are willing to come forward and be on the platform. In the meantime, thank everyone for joining us here at Cityroots DAO and talking about crypto politics. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Matthew, for jumping on with us. And yeah, like I said, we'll post everything. This has been recorded, so we'll go ahead and get it up on YouTube. And I highly encourage everyone to go support these two wonderful individuals. And I look forward to seeing you guys in office.
Thank you, brother. Thank you very much for doing this.
Thank
Greg,
Thank
good
you,
to see you
Joseph,
again.
for your support. I really appreciate it.
Hell yeah. All right. Cheers, guys.
Thank you. Okay. Bye-bye.